The ocean world of Vera was always a place of silence and mystery. Its waves stretched for endless miles, broken only by small chains of islands where the human settlers built their outpost. The outpost was not large. It had a cluster of metal structures that stood on strong stilts above the shore. There were research domes, supply hangars, and a central medical wing. The settlers lived in peace, studying the alien sea life and sending reports back to the human fleet. One evening, when the sky glowed faint red under the setting sun of Vera, the peace was broken. Alarms rang through the outpost. The scanner showed a massive shape rising from the water. Settlers rushed to the windows, their eyes wide. Some feared an attack, while others simply stood in awe. It was not a machine or a ship. It was alive. From the depths, a dragon emerged. Her body was enormous, with wings folded against her back, scales glimmering like wet stone, and eyes that glowed gold. She moved with power, yet there was no rage in her motion. She was carrying something in her claws. As the water fell from her wings and tail, the ground shook with every step she took toward the outpost, Tomas. The outpost's main medic ran to the entrance platform. He had only read old records of the dragon species of Vera. They were ancient beings, older than human memory, said to live in the deepest trenches of the ocean. Few had seen them up close. They were known for their strength, for their hidden wisdom, and for the way they guarded their young. The settlers held their breath as the dragon came closer. She was not alone. In her claws, she carried her young. The smaller dragon was weak, its body slumped, and its scales dull. Covering its body were countless strange barnacles. They were not like the harmless shells found on rocks. These barnacles pulsed with a sickly glow, as if feeding on the life of the young dragon. They clung in clusters, digging into the skin and scales. The sight made even the bravest settlers uneasy. The dragon mother lowered herself slowly until her face was level with the platform. Her eyes scanned the humans, then stopped at Tomas. She opened her mouth, not to roar, but to let out a sound like rolling thunder. The translators warned by the settlers struggled to process the tone. The words were unclear, but the meaning was strong. It was a plea. The settlers stepped back in fear, but Tomas stood still. He felt his heart pound as the young dragon's shallow breath reached his ears. The dragon mother lowered her head further, bowing in a way no one expected from such a mighty being. She was not here to fight. She was here to beg for help. The air grew heavy with silence. No one dared to speak. Finally, Tomas moved forward. His hands shook, but he raised them slowly, showing that he meant no harm. "I am a medic," he said in a calm voice, knowing the translator would carry his words. "I can try to help." The dragon mother rumbled again, softer this time. She gently placed her young on the platform. The weight of the creature made the metal floor groan, but it held firm. The settlers backed away, giving space for Tomas. His eyes scanned the dragon's body. He had treated many wounds, but never something like this. The barnacles were alive, and they were spreading. He touched one gently with a gloved hand. It twitched, tightening its grip into the dragon's skin. The young creature let out a low cry of pain, making Tomas step back quickly. The mother's head lowered close, her golden eyes locked on him, sharp and searching. She was watching every move. Tomas looked around. The other settlers stared back at him, uncertain. They did not know what to do. He felt a weight heavier than he had ever known. This was not just a patient. This was a bond of trust between species. If he failed, the dragon mother might lose her young. If he failed, the settlers might lose the chance for peace. He turned to the others and called out, "Bring the medical kits. Bring the scanners. I need every tool we have." His voice was steady now, though his chest still thudded with fear. The settlers hurried to obey. Soon, machines hummed as scanners swept across the young dragon's body. The screens showed strange patterns of energy inside the barnacles. They were draining the life force of their host. They were not normal parasites. They were designed. Someone, or something, had made them. Tomas swallowed hard. He had little time to think of why. What mattered now was the creature before him. The young dragon twitched weakly, and its breath rattled. The mother let out a low moan that echoed over the shore. It was a sound filled with sorrow and hope mixed together. Night fell, and floodlights lit the platform. The ocean glistened with soft light as the stars came out. Still, the settlers worked under Tomas's direction. He took samples, studied them under the field microscope, and tried to understand the nature of the barnacles. They clung too deep to be pulled free by hand. Cutting them off risked tearing the flesh of the young. They had to find another way. The dragon mother remained still, watching. At times, she shifted her wings or tail, but she never moved away. The settlers were small compared to her, yet she trusted them. Tomas could feel the pressure of her gaze with every step. After hours of study, Tomas realized this was more than a medical problem. It was a puzzle. The barnacles reacted to touch, light, and even changes in air pressure. They were defensive. He thought of how old sailors on Earth once fought parasites of the sea. It was not brute force, that one. It was patience and clever changes in the environment. He leaned close to the dragon mother and spoke. He did not know if she understood his words. I will do all I can. I cannot promise, but I will not stop trying. Her eyes softened, and she gave a slow nod. By dawn, Tomas had a plan. The first step was to keep the young dragon alive long enough to study deeper. He called for nutrient fluids, for systems that could monitor the creature's breath and pulse. The settlers worked without sleep, pulled forward by the sight of the mother's silent plea. As the sun rose over the alien ocean, the outpost no longer felt like just a research station. It felt like the first bridge between two worlds. A mother of dragons had come to humans not for war, not for riches, but for healing. And a human medic had stepped forward, uncertain but unafraid. The story of that night would spread across the stars. But for Tomas, the only truth that mattered was simple. A life was in danger. A mother had trusted him, and he would not turn away. The morning after the dragon mother's arrival, the outpost was silent, except for the steady hum of machines. Tomas had not slept. He moved from one scanner to another, checking the readings of the young dragon. The barnacles pulsed with a strange rhythm, as if they were alive in more ways than one. Their glow dimmed and brightened in patterns that did not match natural life. Tomas knew he was facing something built with purpose, not born by chance. The dragon mother remained on the platform. Her giant body curled close to the medical wing. She did not leave her young, not even when the tides rose high around her tail. She watched Tomas with golden eyes, unblinking. The settlers whispered among themselves, afraid to get too close. They were unused to being observed so closely by a creature of legend. Tomas forced himself to focus. He gathered the settlers in the medical chamber. "We must help the young dragon," he said, his voice calm, though his face showed the strain of long hours. "The barnacles are spreading fast. They are draining life. Cutting them off will harm the creature more. We must find another way." A young engineer named Mira spoke up. "Could we burn them with heat?" Tomas shook his head. "If we use heat, we burn the scales too. The young one is weak. It will not survive that pain." Another settler, older and quiet, asked, then cold. "Freeze them until they fall away." Again, Tomas shook his head. "The barnacles adapt. They cling tighter with cold. We must learn what they react to and find a way to loosen their grip." The settlers fell into silence. The challenge was clear. It was not just medicine. It was a test of patience and invention. Tomas returned to the side of the young dragon. He placed sensors around its body, watching the patterns on the screens. He noticed that when the dragon's heart beat stronger, the barnacles pulsed brighter, as if they drew power from every breath. The thought made him uneasy. He remembered old human stories of parasites that lived on whales, clinging and never letting go. But these barnacles were worse. They were draining not only body, but energy itself. He spoke softly to the dragon mother. "I will need time. I will not stop trying." The translator crackled and carried his words. The dragon mother's chest rumbled with a low sound that might have been acceptance. The day turned long. The settlers built a small tank large enough for part of the young dragon's body to rest in. They filled it with water drawn from the alien ocean, filtered through machines. Tomas wanted to see how the barnacles reacted to changes in water conditions. Mira adjusted salinity levels. At first, nothing happened, but when the water grew slightly denser, a few barnacles twitched. Their glow flickered. Tomas leaned closer, hope rising. "They react," he said. "Keep watching." Hours passed. They tried warmer water, colder water, shifting minerals, shifting pressure. Some barnacles tightened, others loosened. Each reaction was written down carefully. It was like learning the language of a living puzzle. The young dragon cried weakly at times, a sound that shook the hearts of the settlers. Tomas rested a hand against its side, whispering words of calm, though he knew the creature might not understand. Still, the mother watched and seemed to soften at his attempts. As night came again, Tomas called the settlers together. His eyes were red from fatigue, but his mind was sharp. "We cannot fight them one by one. We must make them want to release. If we change the environment enough, they may detach." Myra nodded eagerly. "We can build a cycle machine. Pressure chambers that shift quickly. We can make the water move through patterns the barnacles cannot hold against." The settlers agreed, and through the night they worked. Metal rang, tools buzzed, and sparks flew as they built equipment out of spare parts. The dragon mother never moved, her gaze steady. It was as if she knew the humans were forging hope from nothing. By morning, they had built the frame of a treatment chamber. It was not perfect. It looked rough, but it was strong. The settlers tested its controls. Water could be cycled fast, pressure raised or lowered, salinity shifted. Tomas stood before the dragon mother. "We will try this. It may cause pain, but it may also free your young." The dragon mother lowered her head. She stretched her neck so close that Tomas could see the fine lines of her scales. Her breath was warm, carrying the scent of salt and deep water. She gave a slow nod, and her eyes glowed like fire in the morning light. Together, the settlers guided the young dragon into the chamber. It was heavy work, but they used lifts and machines to ease its body inside. The barnacles glowed brighter, as if they sensed danger. The young dragon groaned weakly, wings twitching. Tomas placed his hand against the glass and spoke. "Stay strong. We will not fail you." The first cycle began. The water shifted from warm to cool, from light pressure to heavy. The barnacles pulsed in confusion, some tightening, some loosening. The settlers watched closely, making notes. After an hour, a cluster of barnacles near the tail loosened slightly. One tore free, floating in the water. Its glow dimmed until it became a lifeless husk. Cheers erupted in the chamber. Mira grinned. "It works." Tomas did not smile yet. He saw the strain on the young dragon's face. Its body trembled with every shift. He ordered the cycle slowed to let the creature rest. They could not risk breaking it while trying to heal it. The dragon mother lowered her head close to the chamber. Her eye met Tomas's through the glass. It was a gaze filled with ancient weight, yet also hope. She rumbled deep in her chest, a sound that vibrated through the platform. The settlers, once afraid, now felt courage rising. They were no longer just observers. They were part of something far greater. A human outpost had become a place of healing between species. That night, as Tomas finally sat to rest for a brief moment, he looked out over the alien sea. The stars shimmered above, and the dragon mother lay curled near the platform, her body half in water, half on land. The sound of her slow breathing was steady, like a living shield around the settlement. Tomas whispered to himself, "We can do this. We must do this." The barnacles were still many, still strong, but the first step had been taken. A battle had begun, not of weapons, but of patience, care, and human resolve. And in that moment, every settler knew they would not abandon the young dragon. They would stand with Tomas, with the mother, and face the strange enemy together. The treatment chamber stood on the platform like a strange, unfinished machine. It was built from spare pipes, reinforced glass, control systems that had once belonged to water pumps and storage tanks. It looked rough and unpolished, but it was the settlers' best hope. The young dragon lay half inside, its great body supported by metal frames. Its scales shimmered faintly under the lights, but the barnacles still clung stubbornly, glowing in their sickly rhythm. Tomas stood at the control panel with Mira beside him. His hands hovered over the switches. The settlers watched in silence, their faces pale with worry. The Dragon Mother crouched low near the chamber, her massive head close, her golden eyes fixed on every move. "Start the cycle," Tomas said softly. Mira nodded and pressed the switch. The pumps roared to life. Water flooded the chamber, shifting from cool to warm, pressure rising and falling in careful patterns. The young dragon stirred, its wings twitching against the restraints. A sound escaped its throat, a weak cry that made every settler shiver. Tomas leaned close to the glass, watching the barnacles. At first they pulsed brighter, feeding on the stress of their host. Then, as the cycle continued, a few loosened their grip. Tiny fragments drifted free, glowing faintly before sinking to the bottom. Tomas's eyes lit with hope. "It works. Keep the cycle steady." The settlers exhaled together. It was the first sign of progress since the Dragon Mother had arrived. But the victory was short. As more barnacles released, they emitted bursts of strange energy. The energy surged into the water and spilled into the chamber's circuits. Alarms blared. Sparks flew from the panel. Mira shouted, "The systems are overloading." Tomas acted quickly. He grabbed a manual lever and diverted the flow into backup storage cells. The machines groaned but held together. The energy swirled inside containment units, glowing like captured lightning. The settlers stared at it in fear and wonder. The Dragon Mother let out a low growl, her wings spreading slightly. Tomas raised a hand toward her. "It is all right. We are holding it." Slowly, she folded her wings again, though her gaze never left him. The cycles continued through the night. Each shift of water and pressure weakened more barnacles. They fell off in clusters, drifting like broken shells. Yet with every detachment, the energy release threatened to destroy the chamber. The settlers worked non-stop, patching wires, adding more storage cells, and redirecting power. Sweat ran down their faces as they labored under the heat of the lamps. By dawn, dozens of barnacles were gone. The young dragon's breathing had grown steadier, though its body still trembled. Tomas allowed a pause, giving the creature rest. He knew pushing too far could cost everything. He stepped back and rubbed his eyes, which burned from sleepless nights. Mira handed him water. "You need to rest too," she said. Tomas shook his head. "Not until the young one is safe." His voice was quiet but filled with iron. The Dragon Mother lowered her head near him. Her eye filled the space before him, vast and golden. For a moment, Tomas felt as if she was searching his soul. Then she gave a deep rumble, softer than before. It was approval. The settlers felt the bond forming. They no longer looked at the dragons as distant myths. They saw them as parents and children, as beings with fears and hopes not unlike their own. The next phase was harder. The barnacles deeper in the body resisted every cycle. They pulsed brighter, feeding greedily, as if sensing their danger. The energy surges grew stronger, shaking the chamber. One night during a cycle, a surge burst through the containment field. The lights exploded, and the platform shook. Settlers screamed as sparks flew. Tomas leapt forward, shielding the panel with his body. Mira pulled a power line free, cutting the surge before it spread. The room went dark, except for the faint glow of the barnacles. For a long moment there was only silence, broken by the sound of heavy breathing. Then the Dragon Mother let out a roar. It shook the sea and sky, rolling like thunder. Settlers covered their ears in terror. The sound was not rage, was fear for her child. Tomas stepped forward, raising his voice above the echoes. "We are still here," he called. "We will not stop. Your young still breathes." The roar faded, and the Dragon Mother lowered her head once more. Her massive body shivered, but she stayed. The settlers rebuilt the chamber stronger. They reinforced the panels, added new storage units, and adjusted the cycles to reduce sudden surges. Slowly, the process began again. Tomas found himself speaking to the young dragon in quiet moments. He told it stories of Earth's seas, of whales and dolphins, of creatures that once carried barnacles, too. He spoke of sailors who fought storms and never gave up. The dragon mother listened as if she understood, her gaze soft. The settlers began to believe the young one heard him too, for its breathing grew calmer when he spoke. Days passed in this rhythm of struggle. The barnacles fell away in waves, each victory costly. The settlers grew exhausted, but they did not stop. Tomas led them with steady resolve. He worked longer than all of them, though his body begged for rest. At last, after many cycles, the barnacles covering the wings began to release. Whole sections of the young dragon's body were free. Its scales shone faintly, regaining color. For the first time, it raised its head weakly and let out a sound not of pain, but of life. The settlers cheered, some with tears in their eyes. Mira smiled through her exhaustion. "We are winning," she whispered. Tomas allowed himself the smallest smile. "Not yet," he said, "but soon." The dragon mother rose to her full height. Her wings spread wide, casting shadows across the outpost. She let out a call that echoed over the waves, a cry of strength and hope. It was answered faintly by the young dragon's voice, weak but rising. That sound carried across the ocean. It told of a bond forming not just between mother and child, but between dragons and humans. For in that outpost, on the edge of an alien sea, the humans had proven they would not abandon another life, no matter how great the challenge. The battle was not yet won. Many barnacles remained, and the danger was still grave. But the settlers had learned something important. The parasites could be beaten, and the young dragon could be saved. And in the eyes of the dragon mother, Tomas saw something he had never expected from such a mighty being. He saw trust. The outpost had become a place of tireless work. Settlers moved quickly between machines, chambers, and monitors. Tomas never rested, but each morning he felt a renewed sense of purpose as he watched the young dragon grow stronger. Its scales shimmered brighter each day, and the barnacles, though still numerous, were losing their grip in small but steady numbers. The dragon mother stayed close. She no longer crouched only by the chamber. She walked slowly across the platform, tail coiled, wings folded neatly. Her eyes followed every action, yet there was a new softness in her gaze. She watched the humans with curiosity now, and even a hint of pride. Tomas gathered the settlers early in the morning. Mira, the engineers, and the assistants gathered around him, tired but attentive. "We have made progress," he said. "The barnacles on the surface are weakening, but the ones deeper in the body are more stubborn. We need to change our approach. We must think like them, not fight them directly." The settlers exchanged looks. It was hard to imagine thinking like a parasite, but Tomas continued. "They cling to energy. They react to change. If we can control the environment around the young dragon, we can force them to release without causing harm," Era spoke up. "We can build a system that cycles water, temperature, and pressure in new patterns. If we vary it slowly, it may confuse the barnacles and make them let go." Tomas nodded. "Exactly. We will combine what we have learned so far. Step by step, cycle by cycle, we will loosen them." The work began. The settlers reinforced the chamber, adding new sensors and adjusting the cycles to be more precise. Tomas monitored the dragon's vital signs closely. Every pulse, every breath, was tracked carefully. The young dragon's eyes followed him sometimes, bright and alert, as if it knew he was trying to help. The first trial of the new system began in the late morning. Water flowed in intricate patterns, pressure shifted in careful increments, and the temperature changed gradually. The barnacles reacted immediately. Some twitched, others clung tighter, but a few loosened. Tiny bursts of energy shot into containment fields, sparks flickering as the settlers scrambled to adjust the panels. Tomas kept his voice calm. "Hold steady. We are in control." Hours passed. The young dragon groaned weakly, wings fluttering as cycles continued. The dragon mother crouched nearby, head lowered, her golden eyes focused. At times she rumbled low, a sound that vibrated through the platform. It was not anger. It was encouragement, almost like a prayer. By evening, clusters of barnacles had detached. They floated in the water, their glow dimming before sinking. The young dragon raised its head slightly, letting out a small, steady breath. Tomas allowed a faint smile. It was progress, slow but visible. The settlers cheered quietly. Their exhaustion was immense, but the hope of success pushed them onward. Mira adjusted the system, fine-tuning the cycles. "We are learning how they react," she said. "Each small change tells us something." Tomas nodded. "We must remain patient. The deeper barnacles are clever. They resist more, but they are not invincible." As night fell, the outpost glowed under floodlights. The dragon mother lay partially in water, partially on land, her body coiled protectively around the platform. Tomas worked through the night, checking vital signs, monitoring energy surges, and adjusting the chamber. Settlers took turns resting, but the rhythm never stopped. The next day, Tomas noticed something new. The young dragon responded to his voice. When he spoke softly, it calmed. When he moved gently, it followed with its eyes. Tomas realized the creature was learning to trust him, as much as he was learning to trust his instincts. "Good," he whispered. "You are stronger than you think," Dragon Mother rumbled, deep and long. Tomas looked at her. The sound was almost like laughter, or perhaps approval. She shifted her wings slightly, as if to show she understood. The settlers felt a strange warmth in the air. They were part of something larger than themselves. Cycles continued for hours. The barnacles weakened further, their hold loosening. Energy bursts became manageable, and the containment fields held firm. The young dragon trembled less and moved more steadily. Its eyes brightened, scales gleamed, and its body stretched. At one point, Tomas had to act quickly. A cluster of barnacles near the neck started to release energy violently. Sparks flew across the chamber. He leaped forward, redirecting the surge into extra storage units. Mira helped him, and together they stabilized the system. The young dragon shivered, but survived. The dragon mother shifted closer, nuzzling the chamber gently. Tomas felt her presence like a shield. He realized then that the mother had not left the humans to act alone. She was guarding them, lending strength through presence. It was an unspoken bond, forged in urgency and trust. Days turned into a week. Each cycle removed more barnacles, each burst of energy managed carefully. The young dragon's body had far fewer parasites, and its breathing had grown strong and steady. Tomas allowed a brief moment to rest, leaning against the chamber and closing his eyes for a few minutes. Mira sat beside him, tired but smiling. "You are doing miracles," she said quietly. Tomas shook his head. "Not miracles. Patience, observation, and trust. The dragon mother trusted us. That is what matters." By the end of the week, the young dragon could move partially on its own inside the chamber. It stretched its wings cautiously, flexed its tail, and lifted its head. Its glow was soft but steady. Tomas felt a sense of quiet triumph. The dragon mother watched with pride. She lowered her head close to Tomas, a silent acknowledgement. No words were needed. The humans had proven their worth through care, skill, determination. The settlers celebrated quietly, not with loud cheer, but with smiles, relief, and quiet laughter. They knew the work was not finished, but the victory was real. They had managed to reach the barnacles and weaken them without harming the young dragon. It was a triumph of patience and ingenuity. As the night fell, Tomas looked out over the alien ocean. Stars shimmered above, reflected in the waves. The dragon mother rested her head near the platform, her golden eyes calm. The young dragon slept inside the chamber. Finally safe for the first time in days, Tomas whispered to himself, "We are not done, but we are closer." In the quiet of the outpost, with the hum of machines and the sound of the waves, a bond had grown between humans and dragons. One of trust, one of care, and one of understanding that strength was not always measured by size or power, but by persistence, creativity, and compassion. And in that bond, the settlers knew that no challenge, no matter how strange or dangerous, would be too great if they faced it together. The final day of the struggle arrived quietly, but with tension that filled the outpost like heavy air. Tomas stood at the control panel, his eyes scanning the young dragon inside the chamber. Its wings stretched carefully, tail coiling and uncurling, scales gleaming under the soft lights. Only a few barnacles remained, clinging stubbornly in places deep in the body. The dragon mother lay close to the platform, her head resting lightly on the edge of the chamber. Her eyes followed every movement of Tomas and the settlers. She no longer rumbled often, but when she did, the vibrations carried encouragement, a quiet promise of trust. Tomas addressed the settlers gathered around him. Today, we finish the last phase. We remove the remaining barnacles. We do it carefully, step by step, cycle by cycle. No sudden changes. The young dragon must survive, and it will. The settlers nodded, their faces tired but determined. Mira adjusted the chamber settings for precise cycles, controlling temperature, pressure, and water flow in the most careful pattern yet. The young dragon's breathing was steady. Yet it trembled slightly as the barnacles pulsed, sensing the final challenge. The first cycles began gently. Water flowed smoothly, pressure rose and fell slowly, and temperature shifted in small increments. The barnacles twitched, and a few began to loosen. Tiny bursts of energy shot into containment fields, but Tomas had prepared for this. The surge units absorbed the energy safely, glowing softly as they stored it. The young dragon moved slightly, flexing wings and tail, testing the limits of its strength. Tomas watched every pulse and breath. "Stay calm," he whispered. "We are almost done." The dragon mother lowered her head closer to Tomas, eyes meeting his. In that gaze, he saw patience, relief, and a deep ancient trust. The settlers felt it too. They had not only helped a creature in need, but they had earned respect from a being far older and wiser than any human. Hours passed in careful cycles. Barnacles loosened and floated away, lifeless and dimming. The young dragon groaned occasionally, its body adjusting to each change, but it no longer trembled from pain. Its breathing grew stronger, rhythmic, confident. At one point, a stubborn cluster near the chest pulsed violently, resisting the cycle. Sparks flew as energy surged. Tomas acted quickly, adjusting the chamber manually, diverting energy into extra containment units. Mira assisted, her hands steady despite exhaustion. Together, they managed the surge, and the barnacles finally let go. Drifting harmlessly in the water, the young dragon exhaled deeply, its eyes blinking open fully for the first time. The scales along its body shimmered with healthy color. Its wings flexed, tail swished, and a soft roar of life escaped its throat. Tomas felt a surge of relief, unlike anything he had experienced before. The dragon mother stretched her wings, letting out a long, low rumble that vibrated through the platform. She nuzzled the chamber gently, her golden eyes soft and warm. Tomas stepped forward and placed a hand against the glass, meeting her gaze. In that moment, no words were needed. The bond was complete. Settlers cheered softly, tears glistening on many faces. The outpost, once quiet and tense, now hummed with the energy of victory. They had faced a challenge that no human had encountered before and had succeeded through patience, skill, and care. The dragon mother lowered her head toward Tomas. She extended her claw lightly, touching the panel near him. The gesture was deliberate and gentle, a sign of respect and gratitude. Tomas felt the weight of trust in that touch. He bowed slightly, acknowledging it. The young dragon, now free of barnacles, began to move more actively in the chamber. It flexed wings fully, shook its head, and let out small roars. Tomas watched, amazed at how quickly it had recovered. Each motion was full of life and strength. Outside, the settlers gathered along the platform. They had worked as a team, guided by Tomas's steady leadership, and they now shared the quiet pride of accomplishment. Mira approached, smiling through her fatigue. "We did it," she whispered. Tomas nodded, though he remained focused on the young dragon. "Yes, but more importantly, we learned what humans can do when we refuse to give up. We can face the impossible and find a way through." The dragon mother lowered her head further, pressing gently against Tomas's hand through the glass. Her rumble was soft, almost musical. The young dragon nuzzled against her side, wings fluttering, tail curling protectively. It was clear that mother and child were safe and healthy. The settlers realized something remarkable. The dragons had come to them not for power or war, but for trust, for help. Humans had been chosen not for strength, but for patience, care, and clever thinking. The outpost had become a bridge between species, a symbol of what could be achieved when different worlds worked together. The dragon mother rose to her full height, wings spreading wide. Her massive form cast a shadow across the outpost. Tomas and the settlers stood back in awe. She had shown them her trust, and now she displayed her strength and majesty. Then she did something unexpected. From deep within her, a soft light glowed briefly. She extended a claw and touched one of the containment fields. The energy within shifted gently, harmlessly, as if she was sharing a gift of understanding. Tomas felt a warmth in his chest. The dragon mother was not only thanking them, she was sharing knowledge of her kind. The young dragon, now fully alert, raised its head and let out a clear, strong roar. The sound echoed across the water, a signal of life renewed and bonds strengthened. Tomas felt a deep connection in that moment, a recognition that humans and dragons could trust one another. The settlers quietly stepped closer to the mother and child. There was no fear now, only respect and shared relief. Tomas allowed himself a long breath, feeling the weight of exhaustion lift slightly. They had achieved what had seemed impossible. The dragon mother lowered her head once more, nuzzling her young gently. Then she turned toward the edge of the platform, eyes on the horizon. Tomas realized she was preparing to leave, but not before offering a final gesture. She lowered her head to Tomas and the settlers in a slow bow. It was an honor, a promise of protection, and a sign that humans had earned a place of trust in her world. Before rising fully, she exhaled a soft plume of warm air that carried a subtle scent of the ocean deep. The young dragon mirrored her, stretching wings and tail in preparation. Then together mother and child rose, wings unfurling wide, and they lifted into the sky. The settlers watched as the dragons soared above the outpost, their forms silhouetted against the rising sun. Energy bursts from the barnacles had long since ceased, leaving only calm. The young dragon followed its mother closely, strong and free at last. Tomas turned to the settlers. "We have done more than heal one life," he said. "We have shown that humans can be trusted, that we can find solutions, and that our persistence matters. This is a moment that will be remembered, not just here, but across the stars." The settlers nodded, pride and wonder shining in their eyes. Mira smiled, her fatigue forgotten in the joy of success. The outpost, once quiet and ordinary, had become legendary in its own way. As the dragons disappeared into the sky, Tomas felt a calm determination settle over him. The world was full of challenges, strange and dangerous, but humans had proven that, with courage, intelligence, and care, even the impossible could be overcome. The dragon mother had come in desperation and left in trust. Her young dragon had survived, healthy and strong, and the settlers, guided by a human medic who refused to give up, had become part of a story that would be told for generations. The outpost returned to quiet, but it was different now. It held the memory of a bond forged in struggle and trust. Tomas looked out over the ocean, feeling the presence of the dragons even after they were gone. A new understanding had begun. Humans were not only survivors. They were healers, problem solvers, friends to those who needed them most. And in that truth, Tomas and the settlers knew that this was only the beginning.